On his appointment as Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana in 2010, he promised to turn the university into a world-class university, and he subsequently undertook several reforms from infrastructural development, a new grading system, and the controversial Legon toll booth project. How successful was he in prosecuting his agenda? Was he a reformer or an academic dictator? Tonight, Professor Ernest Aryeetey, former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, is my guest, and you are watching The Hard Truth. My name is Nana Akosia Kunidwa Santi Samuels. Professor Ernest Aryeetey is here, and he is currently the first Secretary General of research in African universities, right? Am I right, sir?
The African Research Universities Alliance.
Yes. Fantastic. Thanks for the correction.
ARUA for short.
Good. Good to have you here. And again, former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, it's great to have you. When, sir, you became the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana in 2010, you had a vision to turn the university into a world-class, one in your tenure. Yes. What were the, drivers of that vision, and what benchmark did you use to set that?
Yeah. I'd been at the university. The university probably is the only place that I've had a very strong foundation working. So I came to university in 1986. That was a very, very difficult time in Ghana. When I was joining the university, everybody thought I was crazy.
Why is that?
Why would I be joining an institution in Ghana when Ghana was a difficult place to work? Most of my peers were working in the UK or in the US. So
how old were you then?
I was 31.
Okay.
What was prompting me to want to come to work in Ghana, and I could easily find a job with the UN system or something, many of my peers thought I was crazy. I came and I found working at Legon tough but manageable. And for all those years, I used to think about how one could make Legon a much better place for the students, for the faculty, for the staff, for everybody. I compared Legon to many other places that I've been to. I had the good fortune of visiting some of the world's best universities on sabbatical leave, Yale, Swarthmore College, and so on. I had a good chance to go to places like Harvard to give talks, go to Oxford, Cambridge to do the same thing. So I knew what good universities were like. So when I was becoming Vice-Chancellor, I told myself the only reason for wanting to be a Vice-Chancellor is to do what good universities do. I wanted to see Legon where the faculty were highly respected by their students and by other students from around the world. I wanted to see a university that produced graduates that everybody around the world respected. So if you were told these are Legon graduates,
you respect
them. You know what they can do. It used to be that way many, many, many years ago, and we lost it. So I thought it was time to bring it back. So the whole motivation to work towards making Legon a university, world-class university, was driven by how do we get the world to pay attention to the University of Ghana. Yeah.
But did you achieve that? I'm asking this because the current Vice-Chancellor, Professor Odro, he was here, and he also said he would like to turn the university into a first class. So what, he didn't meet a first class university?
Well, I don't know. I can only talk about what I met and what I think.
What did you leave? Did you leave a first class university?
I left a university that, in my view, was undeniably the best in Ghana and in West Africa. It showed in the rankings. When I became Vice-Chancellor, the University of Ghana was not ranked by any of the major ranking organizations. The only ranking that we saw was the Webometrics, which was largely based on your web presence. By the time I was leaving office, we had become the 7th in the Times Higher Education rankings in the whole of Africa, the highest in West Africa. So there's no doubt in my mind that something changed. If you look at many of the indicators of university performance, especially publications that are coming out of the faculty, the performance of University of Ghana increased dramatically compared to all other Ghanaian universities. if you look at the number of PhDs being produced, we increased it by over 64%.
I see. So 7th in Africa, and great, all the great stuff you just talked about. Does that qualify to be a first class or world class university?
I never really said that we were going to get to a point where we were determined that we are world class. Being world class really is a matter of how your peers perceive you. I believe that we put Legon on the path where anybody looking for a decent African university for a partnership would easily come to Legon. So you could tell from the number of grants that we're getting, for example, that had increased by over 200% within that period. The types of grant agencies that came to Legon and said, we want to finance this or finance that for you. The type of investments that we were getting, they were indicative of people beginning to have confidence in the university.
Recognizing the
yes.
university.
And you could also sense it from the faculty. I mean, I saw the number of young people that we had recruited who were beginning to gain in confidence and doing things worldwide, being invited to give papers here and there. That was for me an indication that the faculty had arrived. The faculty was beginning to pay attention to what they could do for the institution and what they could also do for themselves.
I see, but I'm sure it was not a smooth walk. In the pursuit of your vision of the university, you had to take some radical decisions, I would say. For example, when you took over, you intended to overhaul governance, management and administration, teaching and research. How did you deal with the opposition? With some of the policies?
There was a lot of opposition. But one has to deal with these things through tact. In a university, you can't bulldoze your way. You can't, even if you were to force things your way, you will still need human beings to work with you. So you can take a decision on your way if you like, and they will mind you. But can you make it work? No, you need them. So one thing that I am very proud of as Vice-Chancellor, I never took decisions alone. I always brought to the table sets of ideas that I wanted for us to work on. And it was always my duty to try and convince people that was good. I love debate.
Right.
Because I love debate, I put it on the table. I did my homework. So you could tear it apart whichever way you liked. But at the same time, you were not going to meet a Vice-Chancellor who was unprepared. This was a Vice-Chancellor.
Yes,
I did my homework, yes. I did
One
good
step
research.
ahead.
Precisely. So most of the difficulty I had, which led to some of the name calling, me being a bully and so on, I took my ground.
But after about a year in office, there were some again, strong anti-Aryeetey sentiment and so much turmoil in the university. The students, the SRC and the GRASAG, as well as, Commonwealth, backed on a number of demonstrations against the rise in faculty user fees and all of that. You were described as anti-poor and feeling to the plight of students. Was this the case, sir?
It's one of the things we do very well as Ghanaians. If we don't like something or we are afraid of something, we try to use descriptions for it, likely intended to discourage others from supporting it. So many of my detractors believe that by referring to me as anti-poor, it was going to sort of be the only way in which, but it never stayed. They kept calling it, and to date.
Are you anti-poor?
No. I have a very interesting attitude towards poverty. Poverty is something that, as a nation, you deal with. You don't live with it. The fact that people are poor doesn't mean the world has to stop. The world has to find a way of dealing with the poor. The world has to find a way of moving on and bringing the poor along. Not a matter of saying, because we are poor.
Prof, I can call you Ernest, right?
Yeah, sure.
Don't we have, do we have the human face to everything? So you call these groups and then you dialogue with them and then there is a common ground. Did you come across as being a dictator? This is what I want, let's do it.
No, It wasn't a case of, this is what I want. This is what has to be done. You have poor students who are staying in university dorms, really not fit for any purpose, completely run down, toilets not working, baths not working, rooms filled with all manner of rodents, and the students live in it. 10 students, 11 students, 12 students in a room. Do you accept the argument, we are poor, so let us live with the filth? No. No decent society should live that way. So you say to the students, I will help you live in better rooms. I will help you live in better conditions. It will cost you a little bit more, but we've got to figure out together how we pay for it. But you can't live 10 in a room and expect to do well.
But Ernest, you would have, you said or made some comments that the university was not for the poor. Why would you say that?
It's not true. I never did. It was, again, I've heard people say several times that I said it, and I've always said, bring me the evidence, show me a tape. That's it, where I said that. And what I said was, and I do recall it very much, when I met with students to discuss with them increases in hostel fees, because we have put up these new dorms, the new hostels, and we're looking for them to move in. The Legon Hall was the first to be completed. It was almost empty, only 10% occupied. The students who were going there were being required to pay 360 cedis a term for that, and they refused to pay. They would prefer to be in the traditional halls where they were paying just over 40 cedis a semester. It didn't make any sense to me. And the argument they made was that they couldn't afford the 360 cedis. So here you are. You can't afford 360 cedis a semester. So you rather live 10 in a room in Saba Hall or in Akwafu Hall and live under very unacceptable conditions. That didn't make any sense. And I believe it wouldn't make sense to any rational person. And the argument for not wanting to go into Legon Hall because they pay 360 was that we are poor. And I said, and I quote myself today, don't bring poverty here. Meaning, don't bring poverty into this discussion. Don't bring poverty into this argument about whether you move there or not.
So what was
right. Don't bring poverty here.
So what was the common ground? So yes, we are poor, we can't afford. So what was it?
So you go there and let us find ways to pay. You go there and we find ways to pay. So But did you say this to them? I mean, did you tell them, you go there, we find ways to pay? Did you tell them that? There was a whole gamut of discussions.
Yes.
So the context properly applied. Say, go there, these are rooms, And I said to them that you students can afford to buy expensive smartphones. You can afford to order Chinese food into your rooms to eat. You can afford to go to town and have all manner of entertainment, organize beach parties, but you can't afford to pay because you've put it in your minds
that is 40 cedis.
Yes, and we will not pay anything more than that. So you see, it's important that in these kinds of discussions, the context is always properly applied.
Ernest, what do you see as your topmost legacy you left behind the University of Ghana, and what do you think, posterity would judge you for positively?
I believe that I forced people to change the ways, or I believe at the time I was living that I forced people to change the way they thought about themselves, which to a very large extent I think happened, because by the time I was leaving, even the students had come to understand my way of thinking. They'd come to appreciate the fact that arguments were not meant to be won by one person or the other.
This was known through what? How did you know this?
Oh, but through interactions with students. I heard students, I heard them on radio, they wrote to me, they came to see me. Quite recently, I was interviewed on City FM, and a number of students called in and made suggestions that they were highly appreciative of what I did for them. Mm-hmm. At the time, they didn't quite understand where I was going. They thought I was trying to push them into something that was completely alien. But they understood. They understood when So I came in, they were sleeping 10, 11, 12 in a room. By the time I was leaving, they were sleeping 3, 4 in a room. Why wouldn't you appreciate that? You know, the kind of overcrowding that they saw in the lecture rooms disappeared because we were able to manage use of lecture rooms properly. And added to that, the kind of anxiety they had over water, for example, had disappeared because we had quite a number of boreholes around the campus.
So there are a number of things for them, the school and the students.
Yes. I mean, we paid attention to the infrastructure for the institution. They could see initially when we tried to levy the use of our roads by outsiders, people were in dismay. Nobody understood it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after the break.
Yeah,
We'll be right back. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Heart, and I have with me the first Secretary General of African Research University Alliance and the former Vice-Chancellor, University of Ghana, Professor Ernest Aryeetey, here in our studio. Prof, one of the most controversial decisions you had to deal with was the construction of the toll booth, the subsequent uproar that followed it. Despite opposition from the general public, government, and some politicians, you still had your way. How did you do it?
I wouldn't describe it as having my way. It wasn't my way. It was for the university. You know, let me put it this way. I had seen a university as a student that had fairly decent infrastructure. With time, as the numbers of people living on the campus, whether students, faculty, dependents of faculty members and other staff, grew significantly. Legon had more or less outgrown its infrastructure. The roads were in a mess. The buildings were in a mess. So I didn't see how I could preside over a university that was in a mess. It was my duty as Vice-Chancellor to tackle the challenges there.
So coming back to the toll booth?
Yeah, so the government wasn't going to give us money to fix our roads. The government wasn't going to give us money to fix our roads. For 13 years, the university had not received 1 peso for road maintenance. So it wasn't going to happen. You had a choice. You just live with the mess or you deal with it. I came up with the idea that, okay, why don't we borrow money to fix these roads? Then everybody said, how are we going to pay for it? And I said, well, the users.
Yes, we do.
The users do. We are all users. But increasingly, the bulk of the usage of our roads is not done from here. It's from outsiders. It's from guys who are building houses in West Legon and are going to buy sand at somewhere in East Legon or Oponglo or wherever, and are transporting it through our campus to West Legon. It's the guys, some trader in West Legon who is going to sell things in Accra and passes through. These are the people who are using our roads and causing the traffic that we are seeing here and also the potholes that we are seeing on the roads. So they've got to pay for it. There are many people who come to this university every day to do banking business. What do they contribute to this university? Nothing. There are people who come here every Sunday to worship at church. What do they contribute to us? Nothing. There are parents who come to visit their kids. There are people who come to visit their friends. What do they contribute? Nothing. In most places around the world, to enter a university campus is controlled. And usage of things like car parks and so on, even for staff, is controlled, and you pay for them. So people paying for the things that they use is a norm that I believe Ghanaians have to adopt, not just for the University of Ghana, but for every public facility. Because you've got to find the means to maintain them. I was hoping that as Legon did it, others will learn. Now I believe many people have learned from some of the things we did at Legon.
But
we borrow the money.
Right. I want to find out. So you could have said, okay, you can use it, and then just as we do on our roads, you pay 1 Ghana cedi or something, and then you just go through.
That's exactly what we did. So we borrowed money, which we are going to pay back over a 2-year period. We began fixing the roads. So we didn't just start tolling. So you could see what the money was going to do. You could see the roads being fixed, asphalted. Only university in Ghana at the time with asphalt roads. And then we put the installations there to collect 1 cedi for each time you travel through the campus. And then there was this huge uproar. You know, at the time, I remember everybody saying that we didn't consult, we didn't do the...
Yeah, so were you like very disappointed when you didn't get the support from the government in implementing?
Yes, I was extremely disappointed. I was, because we did consult. I remember going to Osu Castle, and I told the president of Ghana that, you know, Mr. President, we will be doing this, and I do hope that you have no objection to it. He smiled. He didn't say, don't do it or go and do it, but he knew it. We had a discussion with the Minister of Roads at the time, and we told you, and when we did a shortcutting for the reconstruction to begin, it was the Minister of Roads and Highways who came to do the shortcutting. And in his address, he did remark that when it's done, we will be charging for the use of these roads. So the government was fully aware of it. My disappointment was the fact that when the uproar came, the government kept quiet.
They didn't stand by it.
It didn't stand by us, yes. I was extremely disappointed. But even worse, when the noise levels grew and politicians began to panic, as they always do, then you got the chief of staff effectively
calling you to say stop.
Stop. Yes. I found rather shameful in the sense that there's something that you knew about.
But who called you at that time?
Well, the chief of staff.
Who?
The chief of staff.
Who? What's his name?
Well, I don't know if that's going into personality, but that's the point I want to make. Government, represented by the chief of staff, announced that, you know, Parliament had summoned me to find whether we had the right to do it.
Remember, yeah.
Yes, and Parliament, I made it quite clear to Parliament and showed the law that allowed us to do it. There were all these lawyers who were making empty noises about Legon not having the right, because they didn't know the law. There were all these lawyers who didn't know the law and were making noise about Legon not having the right. I went to Parliament and I showed Parliament how we were empowered to do it. And then after Parliament had accepted that we had the power and the authority to do it, then the chief of staff stepped in and said, stop it. And then that emboldened the...
But wasn't the chief of staff empowered by the president, or can I say
I don't know who empowered him, but he was the one who directed that it be stopped, you know. And that is what strengthened the hands of the national security guards to come and demolish structures.
And then you put it up again?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, because we were told we could do it.
But it's apparent that your tenants saw problems, you know, that needed to be fixed. But in fixing them, students were inconvenienced, I would say. Do you think that, you know, they were largely misunderstood by, you know, the university community and the general public? You know, you didn't really communicate what you wanted to do, or the importance of the decision you wanted to take at that time?
You know, it's possible that our communication was not effective. It's possible. But I also happen to believe that in Ghana, when problems arise, these days we tend to oversimplify the process that led to the problems arising by hiding behind things like there wasn't enough communication. You know, for the roads, for example, one whole year, I told you about talking to the president of it at the time and talking to the Minister of Roads and so on, the Ministry of Education.
We are aware of it.
Yeah, not just aware of it. One whole year before, when I read my annual report at the congregation, I did announce that when we finish these roads, we will levy this levies on the use of these things. It was reported in the papers. So Ghanaians knew about it one whole year before it was done. Nobody can tell me that it was a secret. Nobody can tell me that we didn't tell anybody. Before he also did it, 3 months before, we took out advertisers' notices in the papers, and we announced. You know, when we announced it, nobody discussed it. Nobody paid any attention to it until we did it. Then they said, "Well, no communication." It's easy.
So 3 months wasn't enough time. You think it was enough time for us to, to accept that we're going to start paying some toll for it?
Definitely. So if you had issues with parliamentarians, I know a parliamentarian who lived in this area, making noise on radio that they were not consulted.
But Ernest, couldn't you have, you spoke to the president, you spoke to parliament and the appropriate people. Couldn't you have done same perhaps with the masses, the radio stations?
That's why you put it in papers. That's why.
How many of us read?
Wait a minute. So you make an announcement that we are going to fix our roads, and when we finish, we will toll the usage of them. I expect decent journalists to pick it up and say, hey, why are you going to do it? Why are you going to do it? And speak up. So we discuss it. You don't do anything about it, and it comes to no communication. We like finding excuses. We like blaming somebody. We don't like fixing our problems. So if a whole year we told Ghanaians through papers, through announcements, that we will be fixing these roads, we will be charging for the use of them, what stopped anybody from going to court to say, you don't have the right? You sit down for 1 year, and then all of a sudden, there were these groups of lawyers that were always happy to sue Legon. They were always happy to sue Legon. They didn't know much about the law, but as soon as they heard that Legon, there was something involving Legon, they would run to court. And I was always very happy to see them, and very happy to face them, because it was obvious to me that we could deal with them. They would make the noise about Legon not having the authority, or the power, the capacity. They misled the public. They misled the public completely. They took to the radio stations and made all manner of empty noises about Legon's capacity.
So you're happy the road is fixed and you're taking money from the user.
I'm happy when I drive on Legon road these days. They are the most comfortable. They are the most comfortable in Ghana. Don't you agree?
It's true though, but
Legon roads today.
But we have other equally good roads. But
after Legon fixed its roads, then people realized roads can be fixed. Then Accra started to fix its roads.
But some people saw you as a reformer. However, they feel that you did not undertake enough reforms of the educational curriculum of the university to suit the job market. Do you think that you did enough in terms of educational reforms, and was it effective?
I wouldn't say we did enough. We did something. These are things that you don't do overnight. But we began the process of questioning the relevance of a lot of our curricula. We did a lot of introspection into how we interacted with students. We did a lot of examination of the material we gave them. We looked into the technology that was available for communicating with students. That's why we spent, in my time, more than $100 million working on the IT infrastructure. That's why today, I don't know what the other universities do it now, we're able to provide IT to the extent that every student had access to Wi-Fi in his or her room. That's why we overhauled the library to make it more electronically accessible, so students could access material there. So there were things that we did in order for students to have more material. That's why we insisted that every lecturer should have a PhD and sent hundreds of people out to go
what of the job market? You're introducing some courses that would...
So we introduced courses that, upon discussion with the various agencies, were seen to be more acceptable, more appropriate for their requirements, and so on. We did that.
Like which ones?
We have programs in entrepreneurship. We have programs basically giving IT education to a large cross-section of people. Most programs, whether in the business school or in the social sciences, were modified to make them more appealing. You find that the names of many programs were changed from, and a number of departments changed their names more to reflect the current situation. So That's one level of responsiveness I thought we
They could have done more. Do you think you could have done more?
I'm not sure. I mean, these are things that I'm saying they take time.
Progressive.
Yes. You can't do you can't turn a university upside down overnight.
But what can I say? Your interest there had to do with infrastructure. You were so much interested in infrastructure.
No. Infrastructure was only one. You remember you talked about my vision earlier, and in my vision we spoke. It's about the faculty, it's about the students, it's about the people. So the infrastructure is what drew people's attention to the university. But there were many other things that we did. To support the faculty, to support the students that we don't talk about. Largely because, what I've said today about the IT, various technologies that were brought there to ensure that students had access to more information globally. And for me, one of the most important, we did a reform that reduced class sizes considerably, where we said no class, especially in the social sciences, should exceed 300 students. Before, we used to have 1,200, 1,500 in various programs. We stopped that. We broke them into smaller groups by bringing in more faculty. So there were reforms that were there. But the issue of relevance to job markets is one that I think has always been improperly addressed. Everybody thinks it is the responsibility of universities to produce graduates who will work from the classroom and straight to the shop floor or into the office as a manager and be able to function effectively. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. It doesn't happen. Not in the UK, not in the US. Students are prepared over time to assume their place. And that preparation involves a role for industry. Industry in Ghana doesn't care much about education. Industry in Ghana doesn't put any money into education. A few firms may do, but it's insignificant. So you have a private sector that does extremely little for education and yet expects the most from education. It's not going to work.
So what do you expect from them? They should invest in the school?
They need to invest in the universities or colleges, the polytechnics. They need to invest in them. They need to invest in them because they are, in the end, going to use the product. They have an interest. They can't afford to just sit back and wait for the universities and they criticize. I don't have any problem with criticism. I have a lot of issues with people who criticize when they don't do any self-examination.
I see, but you introduced a new grading system, which you said would position the university strategically to, enable them compete on the job front. And many seem to disagree with you on that strategy. Years after you implemented this system, have you seen any desired impact?
I know I'm often associated with the new grading system. Actually, I didn't introduce it, At the time I took office, it was already being worked on. There were people who were working on it from the previous administration. And my job was basically to oversee the final stages and the implementation.
That you could have said, oh no, but you liked the idea, you went on with it.
See, I'm not dissociating myself from it. No, I'm not. I bought into it. I understood the principle. Whether the way it was done is exactly how I would have done it, that's a different matter. But the basic principle of making our universities worth more and making our degrees worth more was acceptable to me. I, like many Ghanaians, had come to see a number of people from our university, not just Legon, but other universities in Ghana, both private and public, take degrees and ostensibly with extremely high performance levels and can't perform in the world of work at that level or even in social engagements, can't perform. So I see somebody with a degree first class and I'm asking myself, how did it happen? So we got to make the first class mean first class. I took time to explain to students. They'll tell you, I had meetings with all students in their halls of residence, and I said to them that in every group of students, when you're doing the classification, you are looking at certain attributes. You are looking for students who are excellent, outstanding students. That is what fair class is about. Then you're looking for students who are above average and that's what second class upper is about. And you're looking at students who are average, and that's what second class lower is about. And you look at students who are below average, a little below average, that's what third class is about. And those who are mediocre, they fail. So if you have a system in which a half of your students are outstanding or excellent, it doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense.
But does it matter?
It matters,
yes.
It is not normal. In every normal distribution, we are all average students.
Right. So moving it from 70 to 80 would do what exactly, sir?
So it wasn't simply a matter of moving from 70 to 80. For me, that is not the most important thing.
Right.
It's ensuring that whatever a student is going to get in order to become a first-class student is accepted by you as being outstanding or excellent. So even if you want to make 70 excellent, it is the process of how you arrive at the 70. I did realize that many of our examiners, the young lecturers who were giving these, had not been taught how to grade examinations. So the relationship between the letter grade and the numerical grade was completely missing for many of them. So they were giving grades that were leading to these A's and so on, which when you put together, you got the first class. Without thinking, without comparing the students one to the other to see. So in my class of normal students, if there's a normal distribution, how many of them are average students, how many of them are above average, and how many are excellent, outstanding students. They didn't do that. So a part of that process for it to work was to teach these examiners how to grade. And we did that.
Educate me more. It's not the marks you get, but it's the quality of what. So how do you determine that? So it's by grade. It's by getting the 80s, the 90s, and the 100s.
By making sure that when you get 80 or you get 90, your performance in the world of work, your performance in social engagements reflects that you're an excellent person. What I want Legon students to be aware of, and I think by the time I was leaving, they were aware of it, and many of them agreed with me, that they, coming from Legon, would be in a very privileged position, in the sense that they would have been taken through a very rigorous system of examination and education. And so the market will have higher regard for them than for others who simply want to pass through and be given grades that they don't really deserve. Don't forget that we in Ghana will have to compete with students, African students from other countries. Even here in Ghana, we have an oil industry that is beginning and will grow. That oil industry needs the best people. If the best people we can find come from Nigeria, why not? If the best people we can find come from Angola, why not? Because we have chosen to give people grades that they don't deserve. We can do it. We can have a situation where the self-respect that we have will be seen everywhere else, and people will respect us, not simply because we are Ghanaians. They know what Ghanaians can do.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are still watching The Hard Truth, and I have with me the first Secretary General of the Africa Research University Alliance and a former Vice-Chancellor, University of Ghana, Professor Ernest Aryeetey. Prof, you are seen as anti-government. I mean, why is that?
Anti-government. You know, it's a very interesting question in the sense that whenever we have one government in office, I've always been seen as anti that government and supportive of the
present government
of the opposition. And then when things have changed, you know, I seem to be the one person who seems to have a flip-flop approach to politics. I don't think it's true. I have a profession which forces me to be critical of policy, no matter what the policy is. There's a way I've been trained to look at policy, which may be different from how politicians look at it. And so, regardless of who is in power, I'll present my views about policy in the same manner. And it may not suit the government that is in power. And so, in order to explain why you're not going to pay attention to what I'm suggesting, then you label me as the anti-government. That's what I've seen. But I don't think it really matters, because most discerning people who have known me for years know that I don't ascribe any political color to what I say. I say things because that's what I believe.
Almost a year in office, what is your take on the current government's performance in fulfilling your promises in the manifesto?
I think and I told the president this a couple of days ago, that I believe strongly that he has set the right tone, that he says the right things, he shows a good understanding of what the problem is. And that for me is a very welcome thing. It's probably the first time in a long time where a Ghanaian leader is showing a good, thorough understanding of what the issues are. Now, as to whether he's going to change the course of things.
But do you smell change in the air?
You know, I hear around me the right noises. I hear the right sentiments being expressed by not just the president, but by his ministers. So I'm fully aware of the fact that the enormity of the problem is not lost on the government. Now, whether the government can do what it has to do to have a permanent change, a break away from the past, that is something that can only be judged with time. It's too early to make that. Do they know what the problem is? Yes. Can they do it? We'll see.
I see, but you're of the view that the manufacturing sector holds a key to job creation.
Yes, yes.
So why are you against, again, the one district, one factory initiative?
Wait a minute. I'm not against one district, one factory.
I'm listening.
I'm not against one district, one factory.
But I'm saying that because, let me quote what you said.
I have said
publicly, I do not believe you can do one district, one factory, nor do I believe there is a need for it. So
I'm not against one district, one factory. What I've said, and this is something I said during the graphic communications event, I said, what you need most before you can decide on whether you're going to do one district or one factory or two factories per district, you need an industrial policy. It is that policy which is going to inform what you do where. And without an industrial policy, embarking on one district, one factory might not be the most effective way of dealing with the problem. I believe strongly that we, as a country, we're not going to go anywhere without industrialization. And I believe strongly
it's been implemented. So would you like to revise your stance on it, sir?
Being implemented.
Yeah, was launched, one district, one factory was launched recently. So would you like to revise?
There's nothing to revise.
You see, I'm listening.
There's absolutely nothing to revise. Let me read. I am not against one district, one factory. You can build any type of thing that you want and call it a factory anywhere and say, I've done my factory. If your goal is to industrialize Ghana, which is my goal, and Ghana should be industrialized, you've got to think carefully in how you define factory. You've got to think carefully about what that factory is going to do. It's not simply, I saw on social media a couple of days ago somebody who is manufacturing a petition plant that he has been running for a number of years and trying to expand it, and says, well, this is my my factory for my district. You know, we've gotten to a point where people are making fun of these things. Let us take it a bit more seriously. I am strongly for manufacturing. I'm strongly for producing manufactured items in our districts. But I also know that all districts are not the same. There are strong districts and there are weak districts. So we've got to be careful, a bit more selective, to ensure that the investments we make in our factories for our districts do pay off, that they generate employment for young people there, that they generate excess for the production of other goods and services in the district, that they lead to a transformation of the district's economy. It's not simply doing
one district, one factory. I see. But under your tenure again, said the University of Ghana back in 2015 entered into a PPP agreement with Africast Integras to invest $64 million to the construction of, I think, a hostel beds for 1,000 people. Recently raised questions where, talked about the deal, especially relating to the overall cost of the university. What really happened, and was due diligence done, sir?
Sorry?
Was due diligence done?
Oh, yeah. It's one project that, in my view, and in the view of the administration at the time, which involves a number of people today at the university, was going to change. It was change the face of the university. We were putting up 5 new buildings, 4 academic buildings, and 1 student's hostel. And so you're wrong that it was for studenthood. It was for academic purposes largely. We were going to add to the academic space an expansion of 60%. 60% of lecture room space, lab space, office space. That's what it was about. And it was a build, operate, transfer agreement that we had. We were not borrowing anybody's money. We were giving our land to a developer who would spend $64.4 million of her money. She was going to do the borrowing. And then, so we were not borrowing anybody's money.
Who is she? You said her, who is she?
Yeah, Africa Integras, the CEO of Africa Integras. So we, as has been misreported all over the place, the University of Ghana never borrowed anybody's money. The University of Ghana never went into an agreement or contracted anybody to build anything for us.
Right.
So we signed an agreement that simply said, we will give you our land, you build 5 structures, value $64.4 million. When you finish, you rent the space to us. We will use the space and we'll pay annual rents to you. It's unfortunate that many people who have had the chance to look at the agreement have not paid enough attention to the fine details of the agreement. In the sense that, apart from they put on the buildings on our land, they were going to invest in a shopping mall of the university. They were going to invest in being able to bring in more international students. The calculation on how the university was going to pay the annual rent was based on the assumption that the university will be able to attract 2,000 international students every year and also obtain some revenue from the commercial facilities.
But Ernest, did you or any member of the administration receive financial inducement to allow the project to proceed, sir?
I mean, why would anybody require financial inducement? Nobody required it. Nobody offered it. And nobody demanded it. I never asked anybody that, if you don't give me this, we won't sign this. No, it never happened. And let me tell you one thing. This is a project. So the developer was seeking funding from OPIC, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, a U.S. government entity. There is absolutely no way OPIC would allow you. There are enough.
No kickbacks. No,
precisely. I mean,
nothing.
No, the likelihood that any kickback will be traced by the U.S. government was so high that nobody in any of our discussions ever suggested to me, Ernest, can I give you this so that There was no incentive for that.
I see, but work on the project has, stalled.
Yeah, it has stopped because
why is that?
The new administration believes they can't afford it. They haven't explained, in my view, properly why they can. What I've heard is that they can't find 2,000 international students. And I'm saying, has anybody made the effort? Has anybody made the effort? When I was Vice-Chancellor, if I went to Wisconsin International University College, which is affiliated to the University of Ghana, more than half of the students that I'm giving certificates to, University of Ghana certificates, are Nigerians. So if Nigerian university students can come to other Ghanaian universities and get University of Ghana degrees, why can't they be at the University of Ghana? If we can do the number of students coming from the US and Europe to this place dropped sharply during the Ebola problems. Now Ebola is gone. Why can't we make the effort to bring back these students? They pay, if you sit in a class with a Nigerian student or any other international students, they are paying fees that's about 10 times what each Ghanaian is paying. We are creating new facilities that allows you to increase the number of students and bring in more international students, so you can pay.
So it's possible to get 2,000
Of course,
over.
it is easily possible.
So
all it means is that people have to sort of work hard to attract these students.
So let me ask you bluntly, do you think that the new chancellor is up to the task?
That's, I think, an unfair question to ask me.
No, but you're saying they should work hard. Now they're saying they can't do it, the project has
They
stalled. Are they up to the
the
task, sir?
They can't do it. What I think needs to be done now is for the government of Ghana to say, hey, all of you come and sit down. Let's talk. What is the problem here? Let's look at, did the NSIT take any bribes from anybody? Let's find out. Let's find out whether NSIT took bribes from anybody before this project was initiated. If there were no bribes, and they described the agreement as a very bad agreement, show us what is bad about the agreement. Saying that an agreement is bad is not enough. Show us exactly what is bad about it. The agreement says somebody is spending his money to build put up 5 buildings. You are not spending anything. When it's finished, you rent the space. Fine. If you say you can't rent that, you can't pay for the rental, show us why.
Again, is the current leadership courageous? Let me put it that way.
Are they up to the task? Not for me. That is not for me to determine. My interest is in making sure the University of Ghana does not get into a situation where it is held responsible for something that does not need to be held responsible. Paying money that does not have to pay. That is what I care about. I care about the fact that these buildings have stopped. And if we are not careful, those buildings will be like this for the next 30 years. That is, for me, the biggest shame. I do hear things
what happened to the investment that has gone in so far? I mean, it's a bad debt. Do we cancel it as? No,
I mean, if we don't pay, if we don't, we will have to pay it with penalties, severe penalties. That's what I mean by paying for something that you're not going to be able to use. If anybody has enough reason to believe it was a bad agreement, bring the evidence. What makes it bad? Why? And they try to present it as if I took that decision alone. It's not possible. Anybody who knows how the university operates, the council, the committee system, and the council, I've written a document that shows how extensive the consultation was, who was involved, the reasons for taking the decision. Nobody can claim that I took that decision alone. Even those who are in authority today, they are all a part of it. People think that because of my nature, being forceful and so on, I bully them. It's not possible. I can't bully 200 people at an academic board meeting. You can't bully over 1,000 people at a convocation. The university had a convocation where all senior members, both teaching and non-teaching staff, all of them were there. This developer came and did a presentation. Nobody said, we don't want this project. Everybody knew how much we paid.
Was it sole sourcing, one person, or you had multiple people coming?
We advertised PPP. We went to do PPP, Infrastructure Development Project. This is the one firm that was brought forward and made us an offer.
So one person just came from?
A company, yeah.
And then you just said, take it.
No, we didn't just say, take it. What are you offering us? So what the proposal they had, we investigated to see if it was what we needed.
Finally, from where you sit, do you see the university growing, or it is, where you left it?
I think you should be asking the students that. You should be asking the faculty that. You can ask them, are things getting better for you, or things are getting worse for you? You are
back. You have seen the work you've invested.
Oh, I see.
Exactly.
I've seen.
What is it from, again, with Ernest, let's be blunt here, from where you sit? I mean, do you think that university is better than you left it?
I don't have enough information to make that determination. Well, one thing I can tell you, when I walked away from that university on 31st July 2016, I walked away very confident, a very happy man, very happy with what I believed I had achieved over 6 years. I'm very happy about what those 6 years meant within the wider context of my 30 years of service at the University of Ghana. So I was a very, very happy man. I knew I had put the university in a very good place. And it was attested to by many other people. So I went away very confident, very happy. I can't say I'm very happy today, largely because I think the university is not, by the kind of things I hear being said and now being written in these fringe papers, I get the impression that my legacy is being willfully destroyed. And that I find extremely unfortunate. I don't believe anybody can take away from me what I have done. As I've said to some journalists already, what I have done, I have done. What I have not done, I have not done. And you can't take away from me what I have done. And none of what I did was criminal. None of what I did was immoral. None of what I did was reckless. And there was nothing that I did that would suggest incompetence.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Professor Ernest Aryeetey is a former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, and he's now the first Secretary General of the African Research University Alliance. Thank you so much for coming. What do you make of Professor Aryeetey's legacy? Did he leave much for the University of Ghana? Leave your comments on all our social media platforms on your screens right now, and even watching The Hard Truth. Catch a repeat of the program tomorrow morning. It's at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. My name is Nana Akusia Kunedu Asante Samuels. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.